happening there. Here we go.
Now it is officially underway. Hard sprint out of the gates, and we are underway in the 2013 Women's 6K National Championship Cross Country Meet. They will run over an area that has been trampled on twice by the men in muddy, wet conditions. For that early opening sprint, let's see who can manage and weather, pardon the pun, the conditions the best. It's Callie McCumber from Kentucky, top returner other than D'Agostino from a year ago, that has taken the early middle pack lead. So she wins the sprint off the line to lead the pack down the middle. Got a little company on the right as it will tighten up.
And D'Agostino's just settling in. And it's hard to say right now, but let's just say she's in 12th, 13th place, probably about 6 meters out from the leaders. And at this stage in the race, it's kind of irrelevant. She'll move through to the front, probably by the end of this straightaway, I'm guessing, or towards the front anyway.
So they make their way down the hill, wind whipping at them off of the right. And they will twist and turn and take every single loop of this Laverne Gibson cross-country course as you see them there cresting that hill. And what makes this such a great cross-country venue, especially for the biggest fields in the sport bottoms, is the fact that you get almost a full 1,000 meters of big, wide open straightaway space to really separate yourself before you start twisting your way through the property.
It actually allows the runners to run kind of the race that they want to run. Sometimes with short straightaway starts, you've got to get out faster than you otherwise want to, because if you don't make that turn where you need to be, you lose ground. It's hard to make it up. So it's a really fair cross-country course, the way they have it set up.
We will have splits at the 2K and 4K marks for the ladies.
Oh, there's just on the left side of the screen there, someone went down, and I know there's a soft spot down towards the bottom of the hill there.
Still trying to sort some things out at the front. McCumber continues to lead. Again, 6th a year ago, has not had the senior year that she had hoped for, but she's running by herself here this year. She there in the blue, and now representing Iona out to the front. There's Kate Avery from Iona, who has pushed the pace and decided to take the early lead.
And we talked about earlier the women's race being 6 kilometers, and when the men's race was going on, we talked about how for the first couple kilometers they stay packed up. Well, this is a much shorter race, obviously, and so you might see moves made earlier in the race in order to try to break away and win the race, as opposed to waiting till the end.
So Kate Avery dares to lead the entire pack by 10 or 12 legs, well, right behind. Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, this is they're running right into the teeth of the wind uphill right now, and so for Avery to be out in front by 10, 15 meters is a gutsy move. And we talked earlier too about sometimes it's going to be these gutsy moves on days like today that disrupt and cause upsets and result in performances that we don't expect. And so we'll see how this plays out.
You saw the Butler flag, lots of Butler Blue fans here. Katie Clark of the Bulldogs is in second right now behind Avery. Then McCumber still sort of leading that big pack, but we're going to see who's going to sort of elbow their way through to perhaps challenge at the front as Avery continues to maintain a 7 or 8 body length lead over the huge peloton behind her. There's a little chute that the ladies actually turned into before the men would have turned on the 10K track, and this is when they start to make a lot of hard turns around the inside of this course.
And they're heading down an area now that when I walked the course earlier was the sloppiest that I saw coming up on 2 kilometers. And we saw someone go down early already, and it'll be interesting to see if everyone can stay up and keep moving forward in a way that gets them the position they need to be in.
So Kate Avery continues to push that early pace and shows no signs of giving up the early charge as Katie Clark from Butler runs second. If you're Abbey D'Agostino, if you're Emma Bates of Boise State, you came in, you knew you had the talent to do it, you're right now just stuck somewhere in that pack. Almost impossible for us to pick out all the various runners that are in there. You can see D'Agostino there in the green trunks. She's moved up next to McCumber. You're fine where you are right now.
I think you are. D'Agostino has great track pedigree, and I'm not a big fan when we talk about how someone has great track speed and so they're going to be able to outkick in a cross-country race. It doesn't always play out that way, but it does give you more tools. And so again, 6 kilometers, tough conditions, some leg speed to work from. Sticking in a pack and conserving your energy early can be a great strategy for an athlete like D'Agostino.
Kate Avery is the rabbit right now, and the Greyhounds are all trying to chase her. She has decided to make a name for herself right now in this moment, and she is, well, you don't have to worry about getting any more chewed up track. She can make her own path right now.
And you're absolutely right, Will. Being out in front, there is an advantage. You're not stepping around soft spots. The shot we saw just before this, we saw the pack really spread out across the course. That tells me they're not charging hard. And so if Avery can break away, and looks like she's extended her lead by 5, 6, 7 meters, that could be to her advantage because they're not chasing hard. Whenever you see the pack spread out across, there's not someone leading the charge. When they start to get strung out, then you know the pace is picked up.
This is the farthest the runners will be from the finish line, but also with the breeze coming off of their left right now as you're looking at Avery. With all those trees, this is the one part of the course where they really will feel the wind the least. So an opportunity perhaps, if you're going to make a push, this will be the most unimpeded Mother Nature will allow you around this course. But Avery shows no signs of dropping that pace right now.
She's got a great cross-country stride, very low to the ground, shuffling. You know, don't pick the feet up too high, because when you pick the feet up too high in tough conditions, they sink in the mud more. So getting across the ground on top of the surface is really what you're looking for.
By no means would I classify her as stocky by any stretch of the imagination, but she's got a little bit more muscular build than you would see, perhaps helping with the wind and the power necessary to fight the elements right now.
Well, strength is a key. Strength is a key in cross country in the best of conditions. It's even more of a key in tough conditions like today.
So as we approach 2,000 meters, we will get our first look at splits, but they're really going to be inconsequential at this point in time. Outside of Avery's really shattering sort of pace right now, shocking how much she has been allowed to run by herself at the front. Behind her, the pack is starting to stretch a little bit, but you still have 65, 75 runners in that first pack behind Avery. So these splits we'll have for you in a minute will just sort of set the early tone, but will have really no bearing on what we're going to see in those team standings as we get closer to a sprint finish. She's going to run down the deer before you know it.
Well, it's, again, very early, but I would have loved to know the conversation with her coach before the race. You know, you've got strong front runners, McCumber, Collins, D'Agostino. Let's go win this race from the beginning. Let them worry about the conditions. Let's get out there and let's try to steal it.
There you see the names that we expected. D'Agostino, Sarah Collins from Providence leading the #1 team in the country, Callie McCumber. They're all back there and they're all staring at Kate Avery as she continues to push that pace forward.
And look behind her, you can see they came around the turn, the pack, and they kind of spread out. Again, that just tells me they're not in full chase of Avery right now. And maybe they don't have to be. The gap is still reasonably small enough that they could close that if they need to. But they're gonna run out of room in the next kilometer, 2 kilometers at the longest. They better start reeling her in if anyone in that pack wants to win the race.
You're in that pack. who makes the choice to go? Is it, do you, if you're sitting there, do you wait until you see someone starting to go? How's the personality play into it? Am I going to be the person that tries to push it down? You take a look at the team scores as well.
The person who makes the choice to go is the person who thinks they can win the race. And so if you're someone who thinks you have a legitimate shot at winning the race, at some point you have to be in position to do that. It's not enough to win the race of the pack. There's someone out in front that you know is out there, and at some point you've got to close it.
Well, Kate Avery has so much space in front of her. They've got vehicles in between her and the rest of the pack. She has opened up a good solid 20-meter lead on the rest of the pack as she's running downwind right now. And it'll be interesting to see. She's got about I'd say about another 50, 75 meters in front of her, and then she will turn to the left. And when she finishes that turn, the wind is going to smack all of these athletes right in the face.
Well, we just saw the team scores come down. Georgetown leading early, of course, early. They're ranked number 6 going into today's race, and they've had a year of I wouldn't call it ups and downs, but approaching it in a different way. And as we talked about, there's not a lock on the top 2 ranked teams to win this championship. Georgetown is front running, and it would not be shocking if they pulled it off.
Well, Georgetown finished second at the regional to a surprising Villanova run, but in that one, head coach Michael Smith instructed his team not to kick. They got to the very end, they were in position. He said, look, don't burn the legs. We're going to make the championship no matter what. We don't care about the regional title. We wanted to save the kick. They have a team that is itching to run fast and run hard. They have not been allowed to make that final surge, and they find themselves in a position right now to finally be allowed to kick, perhaps, to a national championship.
Well, and I think that's good coaching, because it is about this race for a team like Georgetown. You can see here D'Agostino trying to, we talked about earlier, who's gonna initiate that chase. Well, the favorite is initiating that chase, because she realizes that, hey, we've got to close this gap if we have a chance to win.
And right there behind her is Emma Bates. Many thought who would be the #1 contender to D'Agostino's run to a championship. It would be Bates. She has not lost to a collegiate runner this year in competition, actually lost to a high school runner who was running in a competition that she was in, but she has not lost to a collegiate runner this year, and it's her first eye-to-eye stare down with Abbey D'Agostino, and she is right on her back hip. But the story of this race is the Hello World run by Kate Avery, who has run out that pace, but you can see the pack is closing in on her quickly. She had opened it up to some 25, 30 meters. That has been whittled down to about 15 or so, as this is the most elevation the ladies will face back up the hill and into the breeze right now comes Avery with the pack in chase.
Yeah, they're closing the gap a little bit. I mean, will this be a repeat of the men's race, where if they can catch her, do they just go right by her, or is she able to gather and make another charge to the finish?
And we will have then quickly 4,000 meter splits coming through, as you saw them running across some of those timing beacons out there. You can see the individual times at the 2,000 meter splits scrolling across the bottom of your screen right now. We will have the next level of splits as we near that sprint to the finish line. Avery continues to lead, but a group is closing on her fast. All by herself, and she continues to be that way.
It's a tough way to run. It's a tough way to run. I admire the guts to just go for it, and they are closing the gap. That's D'Agostino, I believe, closing behind her. But Avery still looks strong. She's holding her form. She's moving those legs forward in a way we talked about earlier, about across the ground and not up and down. And if they can catch her, we'll see how she can respond.
There you see the splits at 4,000 meters. Avery with D'Agostino, Bates, and Emily Lipari of Villanova. Those trio behind trying to run her down. Now it's just a duo. It has turned into D'Agostino and Bates. We thought that would be the matchup. If they can run down Avery, then we will get the sprint to the finish between the two top contenders coming in. on the team side, still have to sort that out. Just getting very, very early results. So as that becomes a little bit more official, we will give those to you to see where teams have put themselves in position to perhaps run to a national title.
D'Agostino and Bates have Avery in their sights now. They are just a few meters away. They've closed that gap. They're not right on her shoulder. There's still probably 5 or 6 meters between them, but they're closing it fast. They're going to be on her in about 30, 40 meters.
Emma Bates in third right now, won the pre-national race on this course a little over a month ago. Abbey D'Agostino finished third in the national championship on this track 2 years ago. They have reeled in Kate Avery, and they're gonna give her the blow-by on the right-hand side. D'Agostino will be the leader here in just a second, and now she is.
There's some subtleties that when this happens in a race, and Kate Avery looks like she's responding, at least initially, but when you catch someone, really what you want to do is gather yourself and go by them quickly. Don't give them a chance to think that they can stay with you. Now, I think D'Agostino is really trying to do that, but there's a great response going on here, and I hope this turns out to be a pretty competitive finish.
Not coincidental that the exact spot on the course where Edred Cesarek ran down Kennedy Kathuka in the shocker in the men's race to deny Kathuka his second national championship. D'Agostino seeking her first as well to cap off an incredible outdoor cross-country career, makes the pass at that moment as well, as they have one more uphill stretch before they will turn right and head to that final sprint finish.
Looks like D'Agostino Abbey is extending her lead a little over Bates. Avery's sticking on Bates' shoulder right now as they climb this hill. And I think that this hill is really working to D'Agostino's advantage. She's really showing the strength that she has this year as she powers up it in a way.
Abbey D'Agostino was a late bloomer in the running community. Never broke the 5-minute mile barrier as a prep. Not highly recruited, had some late offers. Didn't want even the pressure really of having to run for a scholarship. So she ends up at Dartmouth. Parents still footing some of the bill for an Ivy League education, but she has blossomed into one of the best runners, the 5,000 meter champion, pulled off the double both indoors and outdoors, and has yielded to some great runners, including that out kick last year in Kentucky by Betsy Saina of Iowa State. The year was supposed to be D'Agostino's, and you look at that gap behind, Emma Bates has not been able to keep up with D'Agostino's final kick.
And the gap is growing, Will, and watching Abbey run, her coach is Mark Coogan. Mark was a compatriot, or a competitor and friend of mine back when I was running competitively, and he was a mudder. He was a great cross-country runner. He loved conditions like this, and so I'm sure he's prepared Abbey well for today, as it's showing right now.
She has made the turn for home, and unless she falters, I don't think Bates is going to have enough in the can to get her and catch up to Abbey D'Agostino. Quick note on the splits at 4,000 meters. Georgetown had a 3-point lead over Providence, and the Butler Bulldogs were third and just 32 points out of first. So a lot to be discovered with that battle, as we'll see those athletes cross the finish line. Not a lot of separation behind, so we'll see a lot of positions up for battle. But right now the eyes on Abbey D'Agostino. One last dig. Emma Bates some 50, 60 meters behind her, trying to look for that final kick, but she's not going to have it.
And Avery's hung on really well to third place. I think she's got a great shot at finishing second if she can get by Emma. It's very impressive to be out in the lead by yourself for that long and still finish strong.
It will not be a meet or course record because of the conditions. We've already passed by that one, but D'Agostino could care less about the time. Third in 2011, second a year ago in Kentucky. She won every race she entered this year, And finally, the wait pays off. Abbey D'Agostino is an NCAA champion. She wins in 2013. Emma Bates will come across second. And how about the finish for Kate Avery? Does not go away. What a race for her. Finishes third. And now we watch the teams behind. First one across.
And for Villanova, Florida State. #1 ranked Providence, first runners across.
Keep an eye out for the pack now. You will have some really strong ones, especially with that Georgetown squad. When they get the kick in, you see a couple of Hoyas coming across. Everybody digging. This is where championships are made. It was a 3-point difference at the split. So you see these runners coming across right now, Bob. As Katie Clark for Butler comes across, boy, she was up there early and faltered a little bit. So the chance for a upstart from just down the road maybe faltered down the stretch. But there you see a lot of Big East runners coming across all together, and we'll have to sort it all out.
You can see the sprint to the line, as we've talked about all day. The championship can be decided right here in the last 50 meters, 100 meters, as you lose or gain ground to the competitors around you.
Trying to just clear the chute right now because of all of these runners coming through, fighting and battling for position. The top couple of teams, most of their top 5 have now about crossed. A few more coming through right now. Boy, Bob, we had a long wait on the men's side to sort out Colorado's championship, and it wasn't nearly this congested coming across as it is right now for the women.
Well, it's a shorter race, so they're packed together more tightly. There's the Minnesota team. All their runners across the line, coached by the great Steve Placentia.
Now what a race. It's Abbey D'Agostino's title. She has it. That will not be denied. Now the question is, Georgetown led at 4,000 meters, but it was a narrow margin for the 2011 champs. Providence, the 95 champions, the #1 team coming in. Butler right behind. It was 3 Big East teams all together at 4,000 meters. Who ends up with a national championship? We'll have to sort out all of those scores. We will have unofficial results. The final time again for Abbey D'Agostino. She was 3/10 shy of breaking the 20-minute barrier in these brutal conditions today. 20 flat 0.3. Right now, as it stands coming across the line, this unofficial, but Providence looks as if that top 3 propelled them at 142. Arizona right now in at second. Georgetown all the way down at 5th, so it may have been a struggle to get that kick that we expected to see from the Hoyas. Again, that very unofficial at this moment, but it looks as if Providence just maintained their position on the course, Bob, and stayed right at that number, that 140 or so number. And unofficially now a 55-point cushion for Providence at first, but keep in mind, anything is possible right now. Certainly have some time to go through it. Unofficial at this point in time. We're going to allow a couple of minutes to go, make sure all of these numbers, they will shift a little bit as the timing came in, and obviously all the runners coming across at the same point in time. But we can tell you, Abbey D'Agostino finally has her national championship. Congratulations to the Dartmouth senior.